all the AMSs are pretty much the same. They'll do pretty much the same thing. And that's why it's hard to choose one. And if something breaks, it's easy to say, well, my AMS sucks and I don't want to use it anymore. I should go to something else. But something else might be just as bad. Or it may be better at one thing, but worse at something that works well now.
Through the Noise Insights with Ernesto Gluecksmann and Mickey Panayiotakis.
Hey,
what's going on?
Thanks for dropping in again to another episode of these Insights.
Well, I will try to be.
It's insights to Mickey's brain. Let's be honest.
I'm a very insightful
going
person.
On in there.
I sit there and I sight inwardly all the time.
Today's topic
is,
well, we have to pitch a little bit about what we do, and we have this concept, this tool, this whatever program we want to call it. I'm calling it the AMS Optimizer.
Of course you are.
That's what I'm calling it. I think unless there's somebody else that has a better version, better explanation.
They should phone in and give us a better option.
Good thing we don't do a live show.
Yeah. Okay, email us. Email us with your idea for a better name for this.
Yeah.
It's
name. But what is it?
It's a tamer. It's like a lion tamer. Anyway, what is it? I don't know what it is. What is it? Tell me. Well, I do know what it is.
Well, let's be honest. I would say maybe, I don't know if I were to guess some ratio here, 75% of our work is related to, we're getting an email or a call about something in an AMS, an association management software process that's just stopped working, not functioning.
You do realize our astute listener was going to write in and say that everything we do is 75%, and by now it tallies up to like 750%. But that's how we work, man.
What do you mean? Okay, I didn't quite follow.
Never mind. Don't worry about it. Carry on.
So what's our first step with something like that? It's you're looking at the way an organization is organizing the membership data and pulling together, like, how's our membership engagement? How's the annual registrations happening? I see you spending a lot of time just wrestling with an AMS and the event registration process. Lately, what was it, like about 2 months? Maybe 2 quarters ago, we got called in because a massive reporting process in collecting donations for another nonprofit. There was some custom scripting that went into getting data from all the different ways people could donate to this organization and process that payment into their internal reporting mechanisms. And somewhere along the line, that thing just broke, right? Yeah. And so you kind of, when we get this call, we don't really know what's happening because we're getting a story from the person calling us. I'm having a problem with the situation. But then we have to actually look into the systems and see how the original, person put it together and follow it along to determine what's going on. So we start with a 90-day process.
90 days. So what happens is an AMS vendor comes in and they sell you this shiny, beautiful thing that works great. Everything is smooth. Your hair grows back. You become younger, more good looking, and it solves all your problems. And I guess there's some magical world somewhere where if you just do that one thing and nothing else, maybe that's the case. But most people live in this world, and in this world there's other things that have to tie into this database, right? It's whether it's your events system. You have these big events, and you want to, they're just a little bit more complicated. Your members want something extra from the events or something easier, and your AMS system says, well, yeah, we can sort of do that, but there's this other thing that we have to like shoehorn in there. Or maybe your donation system is more than this website that your AMS provides. Maybe you have something with Amazon Smile if you're a consumer-based organization. Maybe you have donations from vendors. You have texting donations. You may have like 7-8 different donation things that you have. And even if they're not donations, maybe you have these events that are third party that you want to collect data, participant information, so that the participants then can go into your database, and your database doesn't support that. So what happens is you have not just an AMS or a database or a member database, you have an ecosystem of all these things that are held together by magic. It's it's chewing gum and paperclip magic, but it's magic, and occasionally magic breaks.
Mm.
And what happens then? Or maybe maybe you don't have the magic yet. Maybe you have all these different things, disparate systems that you need to coordinate and get the data from this system into the other system, and connect together, and get all the information you need in one database, but you don't have the magic to make it happen yet. So you need more chewing gum and more paper clips to make that magic work.
By that you mean scripts and hosted on some server and connecting to some APIs, and it's all that stuff that engineers and tech guys
All that stuff.
tend to know what they're talking about, but it's just hard to even decipher what's going on.
And on comes the AMS guy, and the donations tool, and the events guy, and the all these other systems that you have, and say they'll have all these REST APIs and unREST APIs and JSON and all these other things that mean nothing really, but they have them, and those are the tools we use. Those are the types of chewing gum and wires and paper clips that we use to make them all together. They're called different things, but they're still dependent on multiple things to function correctly.
Right. And half the time it's just also sometimes just deciphering, well, okay, something broke, but who do you call to untangle what actually broke? Was it the script? And it's not the AMS's vendor going to solve that, or it's not good. It doesn't work on your website. Okay, well, is it because the website hasn't been maintained, or is the connector that you had? I mean, it's sort of just untangling all of that type of work with something that maybe used to work, because that's we're often brought into we're parachuted in really into sort of
I mean the problem is it's an ecosystem, and because it's an ecosystem, it's easy for one part to blame the other. Did the API change? Did we had a case recently where things stopped working because some password needed to be changed. The password expired, and of course the whole ecosystem crashed. How do you know that? Well, you don't. You have to start looking for the needle in the haystack, and then you find it. But yeah, it's an ecosystem. It's strung together with magic, and we have to come in and either create the magic, or simplify it, or make it more reasonable, more robust.
And maybe it's just the system or the process itself that you're trying to get to work doesn't quite marry, right? And you have to decide, do I change our internal processes? Do I accept that I just can't get the particular type of report I want to get from this?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I, is it really the system we have to change, the tool itself?
Yeah. So that's the case with a lot of them. So generally, a lot of the constituent-facing tools don't change that much, right? You want to make your member event experience or your event participant experience as smooth as possible, and you have tools that make that happen. If they work, you don't want to change them. Then you have some sort of swag selling thing that you sell, or you give stuff away for donations or whatever it is, or you sell books, or you do whatever you do to raise money. All these campaigns, and the systems that you have for those things sort of work, and they have to work with different things. Like if you're selling a book, whatever you use to sell it has to work with your distributor. It has to work with your logistics. It has to work with your printer. It has to work with your designer who's designing. If you a typesetter using all that stuff. So it doesn't make sense to change all those processes you already have because your AMS doesn't support something, right? So you have to find some way to make your AMS or your CRM or whatever database you use work with all the other things that you have. And the problem with all those things, all the AMSs are pretty much the same. They'll do pretty much the same thing. And that's why it's hard to choose one. And if something breaks, it's easy to say, well, my AMS sucks and I don't want to use it anymore. I should go to something else. But something else might be just as bad, or it may be better at one thing, but worse at something that works well now. So as far as changing AMSs or even picking one, that is a concern that we have to consider, is what breaks when you make something else better. And they're similar enough that from the marketing literature, you can't really tell what the differences are. You really need to be in the weeds and decide what you want to do with them before you decide which one is better and worse, because they're all slightly better in different ways.
You can't even really tell from just anecdotal stories by somebody else's use. So for someone else, they may have had in a different organization, the process is just really aligned with the way the AMS that they had picked is able to be flexible enough to adjust for. I'm thinking like dues. Like there's different ways organizations collect dues for different reasons, and one of the toughest parts is when they, you decide, oh, we need to really change our due structure because there's a strategic effort to like make it a bigger organization or make more of the members pay a little bit more in certain aspects. Sometimes that's done. The planning and deciding is done out before assessing whether the existing system would even support the new model. Right. And so you're in a situation, and that happens with a lot of business processes. It's easy to just kind of conceptualize the current business process we have isn't working. We need to change it to something new. We all decided that that's what we want, but we didn't look at the actual systems that support or the ecosystem. And suddenly you run into all kinds of problems where you're trying to figure out, well, all right, is it because we got to figure out how to change the system or optimize it? Or is it because the system just wasn't even really designed, the current stack, as they say in tech world? What's your tech stack? That they're not quite designed and aligned for this change. And so how do you determine any of that? And that's why I kind of think of the 90 days as been this direction we've been going in, because let's be honest, we get called in for something that's on fire at that point, right? And kind of the tail end of some of those decisions. It could take a few weeks to a month just to get on everybody's schedule. Like, hey, we're going to come in and start looking, and we need to get access to these systems. And then you need another month or so just to look at, all right, well, why was this all put together the way it was? What is the problem that the customer is stating is their biggest pain point? And then what are we seeing in that system that supports that or doesn't support it? And through that process, by the third month, we are able to start to identify what might be a playbook or a way out of this and put together the plan. And sometimes it's just we can resolve the problem. We find out that the script was just a custom script wasn't updated, and it just requires something to be fixed, as we were able to do with a couple of our clients in the pretty recently. And other times it's a bigger problem, and here's why, and here's what you need to start to think as a way out of the situation. So that's our AMS optimizer process.
Magic. It's AMS magic.
Just call in Mickey the magician.
Yeah. I mean, it's not always problems, right? A lot of people think of a problem as something that's broken. It used to work, now it doesn't. Well, that is a problem, but not all optimizations and not all magic has to stem from a problem. There's really, what we're looking at here is data and data flow from X to Y to Z, and a way to look at the data. And a big part of it is, what data why do we have all this data? What's our goal with this data? What do we need to know? And how do we get what we need to know out? I think one of the big problems that we face with all these analytics and data-driven world, and big data and little data and structured and unstructured data, and everything is about data. But you go to any of these systems that you use, and they give you so many analytics, so many metrics, and you're like, oh, look at this. This metric X went from 300 to 3,000, so this is great. Or this other metric went from 20 to 15, so this is bad. And I'm like, how do you know if that's good or bad? What do you compare it to? And one of my pet peeves about all this data is that we're given metrics that are easy to gather,
To measure.
to measure, and they're just given so many of them that we think they're useful. We don't really take the time to sit back and say, well, what data do we need? Where do you need to be in 2, 5, 10, 20 years? And what data do we need? What metrics do we need to see, to get there and to measure our success? And once you actually think about that and say, okay, this is what we need, how do you get that data? It may not all be in the same system. It may be in multiple systems. And it's also different tools use different metrics, whether your website has visits, your Facebook has engagements. What's the relationship between those two? So part of the optimization and the magic that we do is trying to make sense of the data that comes in from those different structures. Make sure the technical aspect of it is making sure all the pieces work together, and we have hopefully a single source, a single authoritative source for the data. And the second is doing something useful with the data that benefits an organization, whether it's a corporation's bottom line or an organization's outreach or members, whatever it is members want, giving members what they want, making sure the members have we can tell the members that we do what we're there to do.
Yeah, relevant, making it relevant. Yeah. That's our AMS optimizer. If you guys want to know more about it, just get in touch. If you come across this on one of our pages, there's probably a contact form at the bottom. Otherwise, if you're just listening to the Insights episodes that we release on Through the Noise, you can just look up all the other insights, throughthenoise.us. Really appreciate the support and take care. All right, bye-bye.
For more episodes of Through the Noise, go to throughthenoise.us.